So starting off very simple with Luminary. The build that we run that I'm gonna explain off is the baseline of the IQ build, which we have on the new power comp. It's pretty much straightforward. The whole play style of Luminary is pretty much straightforward. You do the same as you did on a Firebrand before. You're the person that has to stun break, to stability, to cover boons, give CC and utility to your group. You're no one that gives amazing amount of boons. You have good boons, but you're no like super juicer, like a catalyst or a harbinger. You just give the necessary boons that help you survive for your party, especially protection, aegis, stability, swiftness. You help a good amount with might, you help a good amount with fury, but overall the first boons that I explained, like stability, aegis, protection, are the main boons that Luminary covers. Specifically in this build, we go also for a very, let's say, more bunker heavy variant, or at least more defense heavy variant. For the pure fact, we're running with the concentration trade line, and we have Sanctuary and Hollowed Ground, which are very stationary skills. Very good stationary skills, specifically in the size that we are playing. But overall, we look at very stationary skills, so you need to be a little bit more cautious when you use them. But I'm going to go into more detail into it. So now the baseline of everything. We're going to start at the bottom, then I'm going to work it up, and then I'm going to go over like every, let's say, details and things that you have to keep an eye out in combat. What bottom baseline is swiftness and power, of course. Swiftness, very simple via the field. You can also advance swap for the fast advance swap if you did not know. Just right click a skill, left click advance, use one stack, right click it again, left click. You can very fast swap it in and out and just use one stack. You put your skill, of course, on a 22-24 second cooldown, but you give aegis and swiftness. One time advanced swap is going to be enough to walk across SMC and whatnot. You don't need to do it permanently. What helps your party a lot though is, let's say we stack up for combat and Ipsus already calling for might up, so you cannot use light fields. No light fields on might up. I don't want to see any light fields on might up. The only thing that you do on might up is skill 2, skill 4 on your stuff. That's all you do for might up. But what you can do in the meantime is, let's say we're blasting here fire field, while you empower, you can do the advanced swap and then you also give swiftness. And then you have everything covered in the very shortest time. Like this was not 2-3 seconds and you have everything covered. That's the bread and butter of every start of a fight. If you can do exactly this before every push, you're doing already so much for your party. And it's not even, you will not even realize how much you actually do, because this extra bit of aegis, this extra bit of swiftness in the beginning makes everyone move very, very fast together. That is the first bit. Now we come to actual stability part, like where it actually starts to get a little bit juicy. If I'm explaining anything here too fast or too, let's say, too mixed up, or it's not clear for you, please interrupt me and tell me if you want me to go over something one more time. So overall, when we look at the party composition, I can show that in my squad view. If we look at the party, we always have one stub. Let's say this is our healer, even though it's a firebrand, that does not matter, and we have one boon support. The smartest way of handling every push is, if the boon support goes ahead, like we just started moving, enemies somewhere over arrow marker, we just started moving, boon support gives one stack of stub. You're gonna see in this case it's gonna be the troubadour, they charge the mantra, or they're gonna use the stub tile, whatever it is they have. Other classes, different skills, they use the first bit of stub, maybe a few boons. But important here is, why are we doing that? Why is not the luminary doing that in the beginning? For the straight fact, if you already start out of this distance, right, out of this distance to cast your skills, you're not gonna have much left for actually when you hit with the enemy head to head. So you want to be very cautious, very slow on your skills in the beginning. And even if we kite here, you use nothing of your skills now. The boon support use their skills, so you still have everything ready. We turn around, we go through a veil, enemy comes closer. The first thing that you do as luminary, and there's no discussion about that, there's no other option, there's no nothing. you press your F3. Your F3 is your first stab plus your first bit of boon coverage. It's stability, which literally covers itself. You don't need to press anything else in the beginning. That is the first bit. You press your F3, you instantly go into the forge, 3-3, 2, and go into the block. And this time where we go into the where you go into the block, welds are gonna be on the ground, damage is gonna be dealt, and you are gonna be mitigating. You can camp in the shroud a little bit after shield 5 and just spam 1-1-1 on shield 5. It's gonna heal a little bit, it's gonna give resolution, it's just one cover boon plus an extra sustain. But you have to watch your boon bar in that time. Because, as I said, F3 was the first stab skill which you use, but at some point you need to reapply stab. So to go over everything after each other, so it makes a little bit more sense to see it in action. As I said, like 5 feet up here, we blast, we might up, we advance swap, we go in front, boon support is stability, we kite one more time, we turn around, we take the whale again, we hit the enemy, F3 is up, you go into the shroud, 3-3, 2-5, then you spam 1-on-1, and now you need to look at your boon bar. Stability is ticking, stability can be corrupted, and at a certain point, like right before you saw, like it was 6 stacks, and then it went down on 3 stacks, and the moment it goes down on 3 stacks, you want to consider going out of your shroud, and now it's the question what happens in front of you. Depending on what the enemy is doing, either the enemy is full committing onto our push, or they're playing defensive. You use different stab skills after this. If the enemy is committing on top of us because they want to counter push, you hit Hollowed Ground into elite skill into F2. For the simple fact, in this moment, oh yeah, we're gonna get kicked out, don't worry, we can just come back in after this. If the enemy is committing on top of us, conditions, damage, CCs, all at once is gonna hit. With Hollowed Ground, you're preventing of mass CCing because the stability gets reapplied. With Feel My Wrath, you're giving your DPS extra fury, extra quickness, super speed to reposition themselves. And with F2, you're helping your healer cleanser to cleanse off conditions. You heal yourself and you give an extra bit of boons. Because in this particular moment where the enemy is pushing on top of us, they will also press everything. But if you stand still as a luminary, really give yourself the time of putting down your defensive layers, you make it impossible for the enemy to kill any one of you. Of course, at the same time where you come out of Forge, you also need to swap to X Shield in this case, go through your weapon abilities, but that should be a given, right? Like while you do everything else, you also try to mix in your weapon abilities. Of course, with the focus of getting the symbols on the feet of your allies, with the CC towards the enemy, and with the block being somewhat in front. That is the one option. The second option is enemy is kiting away. You come, right, like you used your Forge skill, you come out of Forge, enemy is kiting away. What are you doing? You need to see what is happening while they're kiting. If they kite away and they put damage, then you just go brain dead mode, stand your ground, F2 for cover boons, and it should be enough. You're gonna get also some extra boons from people around you, more than enough in combat. Like, it's gonna free up everyone, you give extra cleanses, you give the extra stab. It's good enough. If the enemy is running away and does nothing, you can literally just press stand your ground. But you need to actively watch HP bars in that case. If you want to make sure that you're always on the safe side, always go stand your ground plus F2. Very straightforward, nothing you can do wrong. Those are the two options which can happen. If you think about it, there is no other option. Either enemy kites away or repositions, or they go into us and also do damage. So those are your two options. Now, what are we doing from there on? Because the start is pretty much fixed, and from there on we're just looping. Now it's just always watching our squad, watching enemy squad, and then deciding between the loop options which you have. While the instant is resetting, I'm gonna keep explaining here with screen share. The first loop option is of course always F3 into Forge, 3-3, 2-5, and then sitting in the block, going out, Hollowed Ground if the enemy pushes top of us or we are bunkering, stand your ground if the enemy is kiting or they are repositioning themselves. And then you go again. You wait for cooldowns to return. Use the other skill if necessary, and you always need to work together with your boon support, because you're not the only one giving stuff in your party. You also always have a boon support. Troubadour, Harbinger, Catalyst, Paragon. All of those classes also have stability. They need to support with you. If your boon support is telling you, no, I don't do stuff, you can take a stick and slap him until they start giving you stuff. Because it's literally their job to also give you stuff. There's no solo stubbing in 2025 anymore. Impossible. You will not be able to do it. It's as you cannot cover the stuff with boons. It's just bullshit. Everyone that tells you to solo stab just doesn't know what they're talking about. Straightforward. No, and this is already the whole kit what you're looking at. There's not much more boon or stab wise. You always react on the enemy, you react on your own squad, and you spread out your CC. But what can we do with the CC? Now this is the art of a good firebrand. A good firebrand doesn't just give stab or anything, or just gets people moving. The art of a firebrand or luminary or guard, support guard overall, is to also provide very solid CC in the meantime, which means taking a target, look if they have stability. If not, start pulling them. The enemy wants to move from right to left, putting a line in their way, and all of that stuff. Enemies pushing across us like they want to move this way, putting a sentry in the way. Like they just bounce in. Everyone that has no stability just got bounced back like the Minotaur. So this has something to do with understanding what's happening in front of you. At the same time, this is gonna sound stupid, but it is what it is. You have to stay calm. If the main stab giver or the guard in your party already starts to play hectic, the whole party will be hectic. There is no in between there. If one person starts to be hectic, the other people start to be hectic. And since you are the most important person in your party, besides the DPS, of course, the DPS is the one that actually kills the enemies, you need to stay calm and keep a clean head. The more you can stay calm and observe what's happening, the better you will be able to use your skills. Because that's at the end the only difference between the top 1 player and the top 100 player. Right? Like that, they stay more calm, they have a better sight for what's happening, and they have, of course, more experience. But you can counter experience with staying calm a lot. Oh, I think instance is open again. Yes. So to this point, any questions? F1 is just spam. You don't really, it doesn't give much boons to cover anything, like say, properly. It gives a little bit of self-quickness. You can of course pair it with the X3 pull, with the with putting the line down, with putting sentry down, like any long cooldown to be a little bit faster. But at the end of the day, if you're close to the enemy, you just spam it. It's literally just a spam. No, the Empowered Hammer does nothing else than a little bit more damage as far as I know. Yeah, that does a little bit more damage and vuln. So it's literally just stat pad at that point. The only reason why we use the hammer in the Shroud anyhow is to blast our own light field. So you go Shroud, you go 3-3 for the field, for the heal, and then you go 2 and you saw Area Cleanse. And then you instantly go into 5, and 5-1-1-1 is within the strongest which we have in the kit. It's heal, it's stat pad. Stun breaks. A lot of stun break. There's a way to work. We have stun breaks. You have one self stun break, like this is for yourself, and you have a stun break here. But that's all the stun breaks that you have in the IQ build that we are running. You maybe have. Yeah, you can with this one. Yeah, the F3, because of the trade line that we're using, is an allied stun break. But you can counter work this if you feel like that your party is really missing stun breaks because your third support also has less, people are just playing too aggressive or not watching their surroundings. You can swap out Sanctuary with Stalwart stance, and you have a 30-second party stun break on top of everything. But overall, and I'm gonna be straight with this, if everyone in your party takes a little bit care of themselves and watch where they're walking, you don't need more stun breaks than this. Because Luminary makes it very easy to pump out so much CC pressure and, like, let's say, I would call it defense overload, that you will not get CC'd. Specifically not if your healer and your third support also have eyes in their head. It should be not happening that you get randomly caught. Because if you play it like explain it, right? Like if enemies pushing on top of us, you drop hollow ground. If enemies repositioning or kiting, you only use stand ground. You will not have problems with any sort of, let's say, inconsistency of the enemy. Because you just react on what they're doing. If that makes sense. If enemy is really hitting you with very massive corruption and you have like a really big strip overload, the only and the best thing that you can do is we hit him. There, like let's say we F3, we go in front, we hit here, right? Like we clash here, and they start overloading. You drop hollowed ground, you go instantly into your forge. You just do 2, 2, and 5 because you see 3, 3, 5, yeah, 3, 3, 5, because you see the passive effect of the pressing the F3 gives barrier and also is another stun break. You see where it says empowered shield, barrier 3700, break stun. If you fast enough go into shroud after pressing F3 and press 5, you have another stun break and also barrier to like recuperate incoming damage. That's the only thing you can really do. If massive corruption is hitting you, it's down to your healer and your boon support to cover that. It's their job, not yours. Yeah, no. Ask. The more you ask, the better. Yeah, it's difficult, but you have options. You just don't have a lot. If you really are in the position that you're solo step and you really need to cover your own step, I would advise swapping out skills completely in this point. When you solo step, I would not go for stand your ground. You put in Valorous stance, you take out Sentry and take this break stun in. Now your kit is already way more party focused and not squad focused anymore, right? Like it's a lot more selfish right now for your party. But this is the only event that you can like work against that problem. How this exactly works in this moment is you still start with F3 and go into the forge, right? Like same rotation. But now the difference here is you stay in the forge, you press your next stab skill, and you keep spamming shield 111. Because shield 111 together with F1 is applying at least 3 boons, which are covering the stab from Railer Resistance, which makes it, I would say, endurable. Of course, if you get heavy stripped, then it's over anyhow. You cannot solo stop now. But that's like one option which you have. Another option, if you don't have the forge ready and you still need to go for stop, let's say F3 and everything is also on cooldown, let's even say F2 is on cooldown and you only have the tools and you're stuck on shield right now, what you do is Valorous stance, you try to pop the symbol that it's on the feet of the allies, you go for 5 and feel my rev. That is the only way that in this case you can try to cover your stop. And of course, we have an extra stun break because you will not always have stop. So having this extra stun break makes sure if people are stuck because you have no stop, you get them at least out. Because that is the main job, right? Even if they don't get boons or don't get stop, if you get them moving because you cleanse them or stun break them, that's good enough in that situation. No worries. Any other questions before we move on? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay. I want to continue. No. This was now Luminary, like at this, if you understood it to this point, you will already do at least 2 times better now. If you didn't do it similarly already. If you did it similarly, no, I hope that I could give you some tricks for Luminary. But there's a few things which I would like to go over just to have it covered that you know of it. If you should encounter a situation that the enemy is very condi heavy and you, like we do the first push, okay, we die because we have very heavy condi pressure. Second fight, it's still the same. What you can do is you can change your build a little bit. You can go for Perching Light in the Luminary trade line, in the Luminary trade line, which makes that every light aura cleanses. What this means is you can force a lot of cleanse on top of your allies. Your heal skill is gonna give light aura. This is gonna cleanse. You can put down a light field and do a leap finisher. This is gonna give a light aura and it's gonna cleanse allies. And your F2 is gonna give a light aura and cleanse allies. And we're not talking of 1 or 2 cleanses. Every time you give a light aura, we're talking about 3 cleanses for each ally affected and yourself. And this also works with other skills that have leap finishers. For example, I don't know, for some weird reason you're playing a DPS Luminary and you run Greatsword. You can also swap this straight line in and then jump with Greatsword free through a light field. It's also gonna cleanse. I would do that. Please don't play DPS Luminary, but just so you understand how this works. Oh, and of course blasting more. Blasting your own fields 3 and 2. Hammer 2 into the fields and so on. That is for cleanse heavy situation. If you should feel that the enemy has so much pressure that with this build you just cannot sustain it, the only thing that you can do is swap to a completely different build, which will roughly look like this. This build right here, and of course it would not have X, it would have Mace, is designed around the fact you spam Aegis. Every Aegis which you give is gonna reset the cooldown of your F3. And I'm telling you, in combat, you're gonna press your F3, you're gonna go through your rotation, and at the point that this is now 20 seconds, with just because you're playing Valor, it's now already gonna be on like 8 seconds, 7, 6. Like you get literally nearly 10 seconds reductions in the shortest time throughout Valor. It's very, very strong. But you need to run this specific build, and then you have more counter, like, how would you even call this, counter defense? You know what I mean, like you have more defense on enemies' pressure. But yeah, try to stick on this build, which we're running in IQ. This is very solid for our attacks. This works very good with how Ipso and I are commanding with IQ tags. So if you can, always try to stay streamlined here. If there's no question to those particular things now, this would be it for Luminary. I guess no questions. Okay. With Firebrand now. Biggest problem that I see with Firebrand is that I'm only half sure which Firebrand build would be worth the most be played in IQ itself. But I would definitely, I would very strongly try to mirror what the Luminary does. So it would look something like this. Also with big symbols. Yeah, this would be the closest to the Firebrand which I would run. Like, let's say you know someone who has not the extension or something. This is the build which you can give them in the hand to play. It's also full minstrel. Sigils I would just copy from the Luminary build Phoebe Relic. Very straightforward. What you do here is the same as on the Luminary, only it gets a little bit more difficult. I'm not gonna go into the weapon skills anymore because those are similar as the Luminary, so maybe if you don't understand certain interactions you can ask later again. But what you do here is, you do the same as Luminary. Might up, we go in front, you do press nothing, we kite once, we press nothing, you go around, you go into F3, give the first bit of stability, the first bit of wounds, we hit the enemy, you press 4, you get out of it again. So, opening F3 is going to give the stop, pressing 4 is giving protection and pulsing resistance. Literally the same, which just pressing F3 does on Luminary, just a little bit more over time, and you need to press more buttons. What comes after this? After this, it's the same principle as with Luminary. You watch if is enemy pushing on us, hollowed ground. Is the enemy kiting? Stand your ground. Allies lead stun break, elite mantra. Is the enemy pushing on top of us? This is the only thing where you get a difference to Luminary. If the enemy is pushing on top of us and you go for hollow ground, maybe even sanctuary, you need, and this is a need, you need to utilize your heal mantra. It's Aegis on every cast, and you need to use your CC and your cleanses and boon coverage. You literally need to play piano on Firebrand. Otherwise, you're not getting the value out that you need. On book 1, skill 3, skill 5 can always be casted. On book 2, skill 3, skill 2 can always be casted. If you need big cleanses, you go with book 2, skill 5. It's a convert, not a cleanse. It's even stronger, but with the high cost of pages. And this is a big but. Yeah, funny, I made a joke here. Ignore it. The high pages cost can fuck you over. And I mean this serious. Those 3 pages, while those skills only cost 1 page, literally can mean if you go back into book 3 and you need unbroken lines that you cannot cast it, because you will run empty on pages. If Firebrand at some point runs out of resources, there's no way around. You will just be empty on magazines. And then it's all about intelligent and smart use of pages. You want to use everything which is 1 page, maximum 2. You want to stay away from those 3 page uses, unless really necessary. Yeah, for example, those are 2 page uses. If I'm not wrong, yeah, 2 page uses. This is a 2 page use as well. The bubble is a 2 page use. Those are all 1 page. This is a 2 page, this is a 3 page, 1 page, 2 page, and we don't use this in combat. So you really want to stay away from 3 page uses. You want to not overuse 2 page uses, and yeah, utilize your 1 page uses as much as you can. And from here on, it's literally the same as on Luminary. If you run with X, of course you need your CC, and if you play with Mace, you start to mitigate. And you just play it as defensively as possible. Yes, Alfie, but I can give you a recap in a second. So, everything understood from Firebrand here, because that would already be it with Firebrand, because everything else plays completely similar. So, now comes a very important part, and this is where I'm gonna get a little bit angry. If you are playing a Firebrand, and let's say Rafa is the commander, right? Just let's speak from the standards of Snack in this point, because I don't know how it's running in Pork, I don't know how it's running in Pol, but in Snack standards, if I see any Firebrands, no, please stay there, Rafa. If I see any Firebrand standing on this distance in a fight, you're literally gonna get a slap across the face. I'm gonna yell at you that you log off. You don't stand here. As a Firebrand, your ass has to be here, next to Commander. You mitigate, you soak damage, you sponge damage. If you die here because you take the damage and your healer does not heal you, then you die here with a smile on your face. I want to stop seeing Firebrands and IQ standing back here. You have no use back here. You do nothing back here. You're literally just a stat stick. Use your body, get that mitigation in, and tank for your people. All the DPS and heal is gonna stand here. You have nothing to do here. You have to be next to Commander and Sponge. The better you understand this, the better you can practice this, the more useful you're gonna be as guard for the whole squad. And you are literally the powerhouse of the squad. There's not a single stronger class except one skill of Mesmer currently, which is more useful and has more value than a guard. So you are literally the backbone of the squad. If you don't utilize this fact, you're literally trolling. So, yeah. That's not even... That is not even the biggest part. That is really just a minor problem. This is easily fixed because everyone needs to start pressing buttons, so you're gonna get boons from someone somewhere. That is not the problem. The problem is if we really have to sit here and tank damage, and the Firebrands are standing over there, everyone in the front line, and people that are, because they didn't look where they're going, overextended too much, like a DPS overstep, they're just gonna die, and we're gonna lose very fast manpower just because you were not in the front to soak damage. That is the main point. It's not even that when we start moving that we split. That will always happen, especially in an open tech. But you can be the smart one and mitigate the damage on Commander. So, questions to that, or is that okay? Okay, I'm gonna take this as no. So, with block DH, that's an interesting one. Block DH is very unique on its playstyle, and let's say either people are pulling the value or people are trolling. There's no in between. On Luminary, on Firebrand, you still can have an in between that just pressing some buttons is gonna get you somewhere. On Block DH, it doesn't. Either you get the value or you don't, because everything on Block DH revolves around blocking. Legitimately, everything which is not an unblockable, you're gonna soak, which is why I explained the mitigation, the positioning on Commander first. If a block DH is literally standing this far behind the Commander and starts blocking here, he's not gonna do anything for the squad. He's literally useless button pressing. He just puts cooldowns on cooldowns so he has something to look on the logs. If a block DH standing next to Commander and does the block, you see the cone in front of you. On some classes it's bigger, on some classes it's smaller, but the cone itself has like, what, how many? 240 radius. And in this 240 radius in front of you, every single projectile which is going to come into this radius is going to disappear. It does not matter how many projectiles there are. It does not matter how many attacks they are. All the 5 people in front of next to you from a party or randoms which are in your 240 radius are gonna soak projectiles and attacks and not gonna get any damage. It's literally for everything which is not unblockable, or, this is a big or, is not a field on the ground, because you cannot block fields on the ground. You're literally gonna take away the damage that they take. Conditions you also still suffer from, so be careful with that. But what this makes us strong is on a push. The most dangerous thing on the push is that the tip of your own squad just gets obliterated by everything which the enemy squad starts throwing. So this one block which you're doing just takes off this pressure from the push. Of course, people are still gonna die because there's unblockables, there's ground effects and whatnot, and all of that still does damage. But you take off so much damage, and you can see that very easily. If you have arc DPS set up and you have a window for negated attack, you can very fast see like a DH all the way up there with like 400, 500, and then you hover over it and you literally see, oh, it was literally 300 blocks and 150 absorbs. Where does the block DH get an absorb from? An absorb is nothing else than getting hit while being in renew focus. You can literally go a step in front of commander while being in renew focus and you take so much damage off the squad as well. Because what you cannot underestimate is, yes, abilities have hit caps. But what mitigation actually does in Guild Wars is, if the whole front line starts taking in those hits, everyone behind the front line gets nothing. And that's exactly what we're aiming for. So if you can soak hits while not taking damage yourself, you're making yourself even more useful. Because if an ability has 3 hit targets, 3 hit cap, and you start to block, you are -1 block. Someone next to you, which also got your block, is another, that's already 2. And then maybe you have a firebrand next to you, which also still has Aegis to show. So that's already all 3. And this goes so far that some abilities just disappear when they hit the block. For example, what is dangerous with Spear Mishal support, like Warrior Spear 4. First, there's one spear coming down to mark the enemy, and then like the barrage of spears come down. If you block this first spear already, the whole rest of the ability does not go through. If an ability chains, let's say for example Air 111 on Stuff Ele DPS, if you block that, it does not chain to any allies. Like there's all of those connections. If Arc Divider, the Berserker F1 on Greatsword, hits a block, like a DH block specifically, it disappears and does not hit anyone else if you are the first target to take the hit. Same goes with so many other abilities. Blocks are so strong, but you need to be careful to not overestimate what you can do, because ground effects is the first thing that's gonna clap you. Because remember, you still don't have infinite HP and whatnot. You still can be damaged by grounds or ground effects or conditions. Oh, and with the H rotation, if you're interested in rotation, it's pretty straightforward. You push towards the enemy. The first thing you do is a F3. Now, I'm gonna be straight with you. If you ask other people that play block the H, there's like where the spirits splits. Some people are saying instant focus of renewal or renewal focus. Renewed focus. And then instantly a block again. Some people are saying go for a mace shield rotation together with the stability trap. I'm gonna leave this to your judgment, what you feel more comfortable. Out of commander perspective, I can tell you going F3 into renewed focus is the most safest variant. Following as a block DH, I can tell you from situation to situation, the stability trap is also very helpful. Now, this is down to what you like more. With the utilities overall, of course, you don't have Merciful Invention in, you have Follow Ground in. The build is also not this one. This one, very straightforward. Better trade line to reset your F3 cooldown with Aegis, extra Aegis when you're disabled, Immob on your F2, longer duration of F3, heal whenever you block, discounts for Aegis and other blocks as well. F3 giving stun and being a stun break. It's very straightforward. And yes, blocking on shelter also heals allies around you for every block per second. Any questions to this? No. Okay. Is there anything overall from the whole presentation that I did know that we want to go over again? I also don't mind going over whole specs again if you just want a whole recap, because I was talking a lot now. No? Okay. Yeah. No. With the Luminary build, specifically the one that we're running in IQ, if you need to cover boons, let's say you have a boon support, what you do in that case, if you have a boon support, you don't need to do much. F3 covered itself. Stand your ground, you can either cover with F2 and F1, or just F1 and one of your other abilities which give boons, like Shield 4, X2. With Hollowed Ground, it covered itself. How does this work? People are shitting out boons, Hollowed Ground pulses, either it gets covered or not, but it's pulsing 2 stub per second, so you're gonna have always stubs. The Hollowed Ground doesn't need to be covered. If you are solo party, you need to be a little bit more careful. Specifically, like we go F3, Forge rotation, and let's say you now need to get 3 stub. You press stand your ground. What you can do now is spamming the 1-on-1 from shield, which gives resolution and heals. At the same time, you spam your F1 on off cooldown and your F2 off cooldown. Hollowed Ground here as solo stub also does not need cover because it's just pulses, you're always gonna have stop. Okay. If everyone understood, then this would be it from my side. If no one else has questions or wants to know anything. And yeah, this was Guardian. On Wednesday I do Mesmer, Troubadour, Chronomancer. On Thursday evening after Guild Raid I do Harbinger, Paragon, Catalyst.